Daniel was a cargo pilot who flew alone in the vast emptiness of space. His small ship carried supplies to distant colonies and small planets. He liked the quiet of space, where stars shone brightly and no one disturbed his thoughts. On this day, Daniel was on a usual route when suddenly his ship's screen showed a faint signal. It was weak and almost lost in the background noise. Curious, Daniel changed his course to follow the signal. It led him to a dark part of space where no one passed for weeks. There, floating slowly, was a small escape pod. It looked damaged and old. Daniel's heart beat faster. Someone was inside and might be in trouble. He moved his ship closer and opened the pod's door. Inside, he found a young woman lying on the floor. She was breathing but very weak. Her skin was pale, and her clothes were unlike anything Daniel had ever seen. They were made of fine, shining fabric with strange symbols embroidered on them. Daniel quickly helped her into his ship and closed the door. He checked her breathing and gave her some water. Her eyes fluttered open, but she could not speak clearly. Daniel turned on the translator device and tried to listen. The woman looked around, confused and scared. Then she said one word in a soft voice that the translator caught. Princess. Daniel was surprised. He had saved an alien princess drifting in space. He did not know who she was or why she was alone in that pod, but he knew she needed help. Before he could say more, his ship's alarm rang loudly. On the screen, Daniel saw fast-moving ships approaching. They were unknown fighters. Daniel felt a chill run down his spine. These ships wanted the princess, and they were not friendly. Daniel quickly set his ship to maximum speed. He hoped to outrun the fighters. The woman looked at him with fear in her eyes. She tried to speak, but her words came out broken and hard to understand. Daniel's translator picked up some of her speech. Betray, danger, do not trust, she said weakly. Daniel realized she was warning him that someone close to her had turned against her. He pushed his ship through an asteroid field to hide from the enemy. The rocks were big and close, but Daniel knew his ship well. He flew carefully, avoiding crashing. Inside the safety of the asteroid field, the princess began to regain some strength. Daniel gave her food and water. She looked at him quietly, her eyes full of questions. Daniel smiled gently and said, "You are safe now. I will protect you." For the first time, the princess showed a small smile. She seemed surprised that a human would care for her. Daniel did not know her name, but he felt a strong desire to help her survive. Outside, the enemy ship searched the area but could not find Daniel's ship. After a long time, they left. Daniel sighed with relief, but before he could relax, his ship's scanners showed a large warship appearing in the distance. Daniel knew this was only the beginning of a bigger danger. He looked at the princess and said, "We need to find a safe place soon." The princess nodded weakly. She whispered, "Trust no one." Daniel understood that saving her was just the first step in a long, dangerous journey. Together, they would face many unknown challenges ahead. Daniel's small ship moved fast through the dark space. The large warship was getting closer. Daniel pressed buttons on his control panel, trying to find a way to escape. The ship was old but strong. It had a secret engine that could make short bursts of very high speed. Daniel hoped it would be enough. The princess sat quietly beside him. She looked tired but alert. Her eyes followed every move Daniel made. She tried to speak again, but the translator still had trouble understanding. She said, "Uncle, wants power. Kill." Daniel listened carefully. He understood that the princess's uncle wanted to take control by force. He wanted to hurt her and anyone who helped her. Daniel felt a cold feeling inside. This was no simple chase. It was a fight for a throne and for her life. Daniel steered the ship toward a nearby asteroid belt. The thick group of rocks could hide them from the warship's sensors. Flying through the belt was dangerous. A wrong move could smash the ship into a rock, but Daniel was a skilled pilot. He trusted his hands and his ship. The ship jumped forward with a sudden burst. The stars blurred around them. The large warship followed, but the asteroid belt was like a maze. Daniel used every skill he had to dodge big rocks and sharp edges. The princess watched with wide eyes. She held onto the seat as the ship shook. After many tense minutes, Daniel found a small cave inside a giant asteroid. He carefully flew the ship inside. The large rocks blocked the warship's scanners. Daniel turned off the engine and sat back, breathing hard. The silence was heavy. The princess turned to Daniel and said softly, "Thank you. You saved life." Daniel smiled gently. "You are safe for now, but we cannot stay here long, Princess nodded. She looked at Daniel with a new trust. Daniel felt proud. He wanted to protect her from all harm. While waiting, Daniel tried to learn more about her. He showed her pictures of Earth and told her about humans. The princess listened, sometimes smiling. She seemed curious about this small blue planet and its people. Suddenly, the ship's alarm rang again. Daniel jumped to his controls. The warship had not left. It was still searching outside. Daniel looked at the princess. "They will come back. We must leave soon." The princess said, "We go. Station. Safe place." "Help," Daniel agreed. He knew of a trade station not far away. It was a neutral place where many species came to buy and sell. It was a good place to find allies. Daniel started the ship again and flew out of the cave. The asteroid belt was dark and full of shadows. Daniel watched carefully, flying fast and steady. After some time, they reached the station. It was large and busy. Ships of many kinds came and went. Lights flashed and people moved in the corridors. Daniel docked the ship carefully. The princess looked around with wonder. She said, "So many worlds, so many people." Daniel nodded. "Yes, it is a busy place, but also dangerous." As they left the ship, soldiers in shiny armor stopped them. They spoke in the princess's language. Daniel did not understand all their words, but he knew they were serious. The soldiers said Daniel had taken the princess without permission. They called it kidnapping. Daniel was shocked. He had saved her, not harmed her. Before he could explain, Daniel and the princess were taken to a guarded building. They were separated and questioned. Daniel wanted to tell the truth, but no one listened. The princess looked sad but said nothing. Daniel felt trapped. In his small room, Daniel sat and thought about what had happened. He wondered if he had made a mistake by helping the princess. But deep inside, he knew he had done the right thing. Days passed, and Daniel waited. The princess was silent. He missed her company. One night, a small light appeared under his door. The princess came quietly. She told him she had not wanted him to be captured, but the palace was full of danger and lies. She said, "Uncle's men strong. They want me gone. You caught in trap." Daniel listened. He felt anger at those who had set the trap. But he also felt a strange hope. The princess asked Daniel to trust her. She said she had a plan to escape. Daniel agreed. He did not know what would happen next, but he was ready to face it with her. Daniel sat alone in a small room with cold walls. The light was dim, and the silence was heavy. He tried to understand what was happening. He had saved the princess from danger, but now he was trapped like a criminal. The guards had taken his ship, and he was not sure if he would ever leave this place. Across the city, in a large and shining palace, the princess stood quietly. Her eyes were full of sadness and worry. She had hoped Daniel would be treated as a hero, but instead, he was seen as a threat. She knew that her uncle's power was strong, and many people were afraid of him. Daniel thought about the moment when the soldiers first came to his ship. They wore armor that shined under the lights. Their faces were hard and they did not listen when he tried to speak. The princess was with them, but she did not stop them. Daniel felt confused and hurt. Why had she let this happen? One guard opened the door. Daniel stood up slowly. The guard motioned for him to follow. Daniel walked through long halls filled with echoes. The building was busy with people who watched him silently. Some whispered behind closed doors. He was brought to a large room where important leaders sat. They asked questions in a language Daniel only partly understood. They said he had taken the princess by force. Daniel tried to explain the truth, but no one believed him. The princess was quiet in the corner, her head bowed. Daniel looked at her and said, "Why did you not tell them what happened? I saved you." The princess raised her eyes. They were full of pain. She whispered, "I could not. They watch me. They listen." Daniel saw the fear in her face. He realized the danger was bigger than he thought. The palace was a place of secrets and power games. The princess was trapped too. Days passed slowly. Daniel was kept in a small cell. The food was simple and the bed was hard. He missed the stars and the freedom of space. He wondered if anyone outside knew what had happened. One evening, a quiet voice came through the door. It was the princess. She had managed to visit him in secret. Daniel's heart felt lighter. He had missed her company. She spoke softly. "I want to tell you the truth. My uncle wants the throne. He wants to rule with fear and force. He made people believe you are the enemy." Daniel listened carefully. The princess explained how she had escaped from her home when she learned of the plan. She had trusted no one but Daniel. The princess said, "You are the only one who helped me. But now, we are both prisoners." Daniel asked, "What can we do? How can we get out?" The princess looked determined. She said, "There is a secret way out of this place. I know the paths. If we work together, we can escape." Daniel felt hope for the first time in days. He stood up and nodded. "I trust you. Let's find a way." That night, they planned quietly. The princess told Daniel about hidden tunnels under the palace. They were built long ago for emergencies. Few knew of their existence. The next day, Daniel was allowed to walk with a guard. The princess was taken to another part of the palace. They waited for the right moment. At night, a guard opened Daniel's cell door. It was the princess. She wore simple clothes to hide her royal status. Together, they slipped into the shadows. The palace was quiet but full of danger. They moved carefully through long corridors. The walls were cold, and the air smelled of old stone. Suddenly, footsteps echoed nearby. Daniel and the princess hid behind a large pillar. The guard passed without seeing them. They breathed quietly, waiting for the sound to fade. After hours of walking, they found a heavy door. The princess pressed a hidden button. The door opened slowly, revealing a narrow tunnel. They entered the tunnel and moved forward. The passage was dark, but the princess's small light showed the way. Daniel held his breath, listening for any sign of guards. The tunnel twisted and turned, leading deeper underground. Daniel felt a mix of fear and hope. He knew their journey was dangerous, but it was their only chance. Finally, the tunnel opened to a secret exit. They stepped outside into the cool night air. Stars shone above them, and a soft wind blew. Daniel smiled. "We made it." The princess nodded, but her face was serious. "We are not safe yet. My uncle's men will search everywhere." Daniel looked at her. "Then we must move quickly." Together, they ran into the darkness, leaving the palace behind. Their journey was only beginning, but now they had each other. Daniel woke slowly in a small, cold room. The walls were bare and gray. A thin blanket lay on the hard floor. The room had no windows. Only a heavy metal door stood between him and the outside world. The quiet was deep and almost painful. Days before, Daniel had escaped the palace with the princess, but now he was alone. Guards had caught him again during their journey. They took him away while the princess hid in the city. Daniel did not know where she was. He only hoped she was safe. He sat on the floor and thought about everything. He remembered the princess's kind eyes and soft voice. He remembered her brave smile before they ran into the dark night. He wished he could see her again. The door opened sometimes. 2 guards came quietly. They gave him food and water. They never spoke. They only watched him with cold eyes. Daniel felt lonely, but he tried to stay strong. One day, a voice whispered through the door. "You are not alone." Daniel stood up fast. "Who is there?" he asked softly. A small figure appeared from the shadows. It was an old alien man. His face was weathered and his clothes were torn. He moved slowly, but his eyes were sharp and kind. "My name is Kieran," the old man said. "I have been here long. This place is full of secrets." Daniel sat down and listened. Kieran told stories of the palace and its rulers. He spoke of the power struggles and hidden wars. He said many had come here, lost and forgotten. Daniel asked, "Why are you here?" Kieran smiled sadly. "I spoke the truth to the wrong people. Now I wait for freedom." Daniel felt a bond with the old man. They were both prisoners, but they still hoped. Days passed. Daniel learned from Kieran that the palace was not safe for the princess either. The royal court was full of spies and traitors. Trust was rare. One night, Daniel heard soft footsteps. The door opened a little. A shadow moved inside. It was the princess. She smiled gently. "I found you," she said quietly. Daniel stood and helped her inside. They hugged, happy to see each other again. The princess told Daniel her story. She had hidden in the city and found friends who helped her. They planned to free Daniel because they believed in his innocence. Daniel felt hope grow inside him. Together, they planned their next steps. They knew they had to be careful. The palace guards were everywhere. The princess said, "We must find proof against my uncle. Without proof, no one will believe us." Daniel nodded. "How do we find it?" "Vigno." Princess smiled. "There is a secret room in the palace. It holds many papers and recordings. If we get it, we can show the truth." Daniel felt excitement. This was their chance to clear his name and save her people. They waited for night again. The princess gave Daniel a small tool to open the door. They moved silently through the dark halls. Daniel felt the fear, but also courage. They were not alone now. Together, they could face anything. Night covered the city like a dark blanket. The stars twinkled softly above as Daniel and the princess moved quietly through the shadowy halls of the palace. Their hearts beat fast but steady. They had a plan to find the secret room with the bee, proof that would clear Daniel's name and stop the princess's uncle from taking the throne. The princess, whose name was Mara, held a small light that barely lit the path ahead. She knew the palace well, but had never dared to explore the secret parts until now. Daniel followed closely, trusting her completely. They passed through long corridors filled with statues and paintings of old rulers. The silence was thick. Any sound could bring guards. Mara pressed her hand against a wall, and a hidden door opened slowly with a soft click. Inside, the room was dark but filled with shelves and cabinets. Papers, scrolls, and small boxes covered every surface. Mara carefully searched for what they needed. Daniel looked around, amazed at the history and secrets stored here. Suddenly, Mara found a small box with a glowing symbol. She opened it and pulled out a device. "This is what we need," Mara said quietly. "It records all the orders from the royal court. If we have this, we can prove my uncle's crimes." Daniel nodded, feeling hope rise. They carefully took the device and began to leave the room. Suddenly, the sound of footsteps echoed in the hallway. "Quick," Mara whispered. They hid behind a large curtain as 2 guards walked by. The guards spoke in low voices about the princess's escape and the hunt for Daniel. Daniel held his breath. Mara squeezed his hand. When the guards passed, they moved silently towards the exit. Outside, the night was calm but dangerous. They had to be careful. Mara said, "We must get to the council. They will listen if we show them this." Daniel asked, "How do we reach them without being caught?" Mara smiled. "I have friends inside. They will help us." They moved through secret passages and hidden doors. Along the way, Mara told Daniel more about her uncle. He was cruel and greedy. He wanted power above all else and had no care for the people of their world. Daniel felt anger but also respect for Mara's courage. She was strong, even when everything was against her. At last, they reached a hidden room where a small group waited. These were Mara's loyal friends, quiet but determined. They took the device and promised to help bring the truth to light. Suddenly, alarms blared through the palace. The uncle's men had found them. The group prepared to defend themselves. Daniel grabbed a small weapon from a guard he had hidden earlier. The princess stood tall beside him, ready to fight if needed. But before the guards could enter, a loud voice echoed through the hall. It was the royal council calling for peace and order. The uncle's power was breaking. Mara stepped forward and showed the device. She spoke clearly about the betrayal and danger her uncle caused. The council listened and watched the proof. Daniel stood beside Mara, feeling proud. Their hard work and trust in each other were about to change the future. The council made a decision. They would remove the uncle from power and protect the princess's right to rule. Daniel was declared innocent and free. As the sun rose, Daniel and Mara looked at each other. They had won a great battle but knew their journey was not over. Daniel said, "Your people are lucky to have you." Mara smiled. "And I am lucky to have you." They promised to work together to build a better future, one where trust and friendship could grow across the stars. The palace was alive with tension. News of the uncle's removal had spread quickly. Some guards still followed orders from the old ruler, while others now supported Princess Mara. Daniel and Mara knew time was short. They had to leave the palace, safely and quickly. Mara wore simple clothes, hiding her royal status. Daniel adjusted his jacket to look like a worker. They moved carefully through the halls. The palace was large and full of eyes watching every step. Mara whispered, "We must use the secret tunnels again. They lead to the outer walls." Daniel nodded. "I trust you." They found the hidden door Mara had used before. The passage was dark and narrow. Daniel's heart beat fast. He thought about how close danger was, but Mara's calm face gave him strength. As they moved through the tunnels, footsteps echoed behind them. Guards had discovered their escape. Daniel and Mara quickened their pace. A low alarm sounded, and red lights flashed. The palace was locking down. Mara held Daniel's hand tightly. "We will make it." They reached a narrow stairway that led upward. The tunnel ended near the palace's outer wall. They climbed carefully, looking for a way out. Suddenly, a group of guards blocked the exit. Daniel and Mara froze. The guards raised their weapons. One guard shouted, "Stop! You cannot leave!" Daniel stepped forward. "We have proof that the uncle betrayed this kingdom. The council knows." The guards hesitated. Some looked uncertain. Mara raised her voice. "We fight for the people, not for power." At that moment, loyal guards arrived, surrounding the group. They ordered the captured guards to stand down. Daniel and Mara breathed with relief. The loyal soldiers led them through a side gate. Outside, the cool night air felt fresh and free. The stars shone bright. Mara looked at Daniel. "Thank you for standing by me." Daniel smiled. "You saved me as much as I saved you." They walked toward a waiting ship. Mara's friends had arranged it to take them away safely. As the ship lifted off, Daniel looked back at the palace. It was a place of many secrets and dangers, but also hope. Mara said, "We will rebuild together." Daniel nodded. He knew their journey was just beginning. The ship moved swiftly through space, carrying Daniel and Princess Mara away from the palace and its dangers. The stars stretched out before them, bright and endless. Daniel looked out the window, feeling a mix of relief and sadness. Their journey had been long and hard, but it was not yet over. Mara sat beside him, her face calm but thoughtful. She held a small box close to her chest. Inside was the royal emblem, a symbol of her family and the trust she placed in Daniel. "I want you to have this," Mara said softly. "It is a sign of friendship between our worlds. You saved my life and helped me save my people." Daniel accepted the emblem with respect. "I will keep it safe," he promised. "And I will tell others about your courage." Mara smiled gently. "Thank you, Daniel. Without you, I would not be here." They talked about the future. Mara spoke of peace and rebuilding. Daniel shared stories of Earth and the humans who dreamed of friendship across the stars. As they traveled, Mara's people began to listen. News of her courage and Daniel's help spread to other planets. Alliances formed, and old fears started to fade. But the strongest bond was between Daniel and Mara. They had come from different worlds, but they shared the same hope for a better future. When they reached a friendly planet, Daniel prepared to leave. Mara stood with him, holding his hand. "Will we meet again?" Daniel asked. Mara nodded. "The stars are wide, but friendship will bring us together." Daniel smiled. "Until then, take care of your people." Mara watched as Daniel's ship disappeared into the stars. She felt a deep gratitude for the human who had risked everything for her, and somewhere in the vast universe, two friends looked toward the same bright stars, ready for the next adventure.